Well, thank you for joining us and for agreeing to join us on this Wired Women channel. So I'm really super excited to have you on because PR is my passion. So having you coming from that industry is like such an honor and such a privilege. So I would like for you to just introduce to our viewers, who is Nicky?
Okay, thank you again for having me. It's very exciting to be part of this series. So I'm Nicky Regazzoni. I'm the co-founder of a PR agency called the PR Network. It's my own company that I set up 15 years ago, almost, with one of my best friends, Georgina Blizzard, who I'd also worked with in a previous life in PR. And we are a global PR agency. We have clients and teams all over the world working for us, but our difference is that we are a virtual agency. So by that I mean we have a team of people. We have about 100 consultants working for us at any one time, but beyond that we've got a network, a very extended international network of around 1,800 people specialising in all different areas of PR and comms, and we bring those people together to work in virtual teams for our clients, and our clients are very diverse. We work with some big brands like Snapchat and Toyota and Lexus and SoundCloud and Zipcar, but we also work with lots of startups who need PR at an affordable price. There are 7 of us based in the UK. Beyond that, do you want to hear about me as a person as well as me?
Yes, absolutely. I was just going to ask you to hit pause on the professional side because I want you to be as authentic as possible. Behind the professional badass woman, there is Nicky, the woman. So I want to hear about that as well, the other half of you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Well, my more important half is obviously my family half. So I'm a mum. I've got 2 boys. They're aged 8 and 14, and I've also got 3 stepchildren aged from 7 up to 13. So it's a very busy house. Sometimes they're all here, sometimes none of them are here. Yeah, we've got a cat called Izzy, and my husband, Guido, we're all working at home at the moment, so he's here as well. And we've been married for 2 years.
Amazing. That sounds like a blended family. And yeah. From what I can tell, from what you introduced to me about your business, PR Network, and your family, there's a lot of correlation in the DNA of those 2 families. Am I right to say you've got a blended family of PR professionals on one end, and you've got a blended family? Can you just go in? Let's now talk about the business. Obviously, I would like to just understand the mindset behind the creation of PR Network and how that came about, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Well, as I said, George and I had already worked together at a PR agency called Byte before we set up the company, so in the early 2000s. And we just had an idea that there was a different way of delivering PR services to clients through putting together teams of people who would work independently for themselves, but also for us through our agency model. And there really wasn't anything else like that at the time. Yeah. So now we call ourselves a virtual agency because our team is virtual and also we don't have an office.
Right.
So you can keep slow. But 15 years ago, that was actually quite an innovative and unique way of doing business. So we had this idea and we went out and sort of tested it on the market, asked potential clients whether they thought they would like to use the service delivered in that way, with that kind of different PR agency model. And we got really good feedback. So, you know, our sort of mindset, if you like, was to go for it and to set up our own business and see what happened. And it was also the other kind of reason for wanting to set up that way was lifestyle based, in that George had a baby at that time. I hadn't had any children when we set up the company, but I certainly wanted to. And really we felt that the traditional PR agency structure at that point really didn't deliver the kind of flexible working that we wanted in order to be able to sort of balance our family and work life. So that was really the other important part of the picture.
That's amazing. I would like to interview Georgie on her own, but if you don't mind, can you just tell me what does it take for two women? Because I know it's said and it's known that women cannot work together, but here you are again, trailblazing. You not only ran a PR network, which is so different from any other business I've known of as an agency, but you went ahead and partnered with not just anybody, but your best friend, you call her. I mean, how does that work? Can you just elaborate what that partnership looks like?
Yeah. Well, I guess at the time when we set up the company, we'd actually only known each other a couple of years. We met on a hen do, and we had established a firm friendship, and had this idea of setting up a company. And now, over the course of the time we've worked together and built this business, we certainly count each other as amongst each other's best friends. I think you need to have very complementary attitudes to work. So you definitely need to have a similar work ethic. So some people are very relaxed in their approach to work. Some people, perhaps feel that, they're happy to work all the hours God sends. And some people feel they have to be able to balance work and family. So I think it's really important to understand each other's attitudes and sort of mindset before you go into a sort of formal business relationship. And we knew that we were kind of compatible in that way because we've worked together in a previous life in this other agency. So we knew that we kind of both love to work hard, love to party hard as well, enjoy ourselves. And kind of
it's important, isn't it?
We've had a lot of
balance.
We've had so much fun along the way. And also we support each other. So obviously over 15 years, a lot of things have happened in our personal lives as well as in our professional lives. There's lots of ups and downs. And I think working in a job share situation, we've been able to support each other. So when one of us has had some difficult times or just been more busy with new babies or whatever, the other one has been able to step up to support. And I think setting up a business or being entrepreneurial on your own is quite a lonely place. And it's really fantastic to have somebody there that can kind of be your sounding board and just be there to help if you feel that you need a bit of a break. So it's
absolutely. Yes. So that, just taking you up on the last two words you just talked about, being a sounding board, hence thought leadership and Wired Women. So obviously you were selected because you're seen as a thought leader in the industry. You're seen as a trailblazer. You're seen as a person who's got it together. You've set up a business. It's been going on for over 15 years. I mean, it takes some doing to get to that level because most businesses, I believe, they start and fail within at least the first 36 months, if that. So I want to unpack and just pick your brains and understand what kind of superpowers would you have or do you need to have, for the sake of our viewers as well, to be able to start a business like that, and what helps you to sustain that business, and what kind of attributes, specific attributes does somebody have to actually say, right, I'm having an aha moment and I'm ready to start up my business.
Okay, well, you're giving me lots of compliments. I think my head is going to be too big for this screen if you carry on.
You deserve it, because I look up to you. You're one of the people that I admire in this industry. So absolutely deserve it.
That's really kind. But certainly I think George would agree with me. We've sort of got to where we are through accident rather than complete design. And we do have a fantastic team within the company as well. It's not just George and I should say that as well. But so in terms of attributes, or sort of a way that I approach work and life, is that I think you need to have confidence in your idea at the beginning. So obviously we've talked about kind of the evolution of the concept behind the business and why we set it up.
Yeah.
But it has to be balanced with reality. So there's no point in having a great idea that you believe in that, hasn't been ratified. So what I was saying before about, I think you need to be very realistic. So you need to have confidence in your idea, but then you must be realistic and go and ask people and, put together a proper business plan. Make sure that it's got commercial strength behind it.
Yeah.
You need to, understand the numbers behind what it is that you're going to, your product or service, and how much money you need to make to cover your own costs. So I think it's well to be quite prudent in the way that you, you manage your life and in the early years of your business, because it might not make any money for a while. So you need to be quite prudent and pragmatic. So you need to be confident, but you also need to accept that perhaps in some areas you will fail. Some parts of not parts of the business will fail, but some things that you try won't work out. You might set up a new line or a new service, or perhaps work with a client and it doesn't work out, or work with some people. You know, there's going to be things that go wrong. I think it's important to know that doesn't mean the business is wrong, or that you're running it incorrectly, but I think you're going to make mistakes. And then that would lead me on to the next point, which would be, don't think you can know everything or do everything yourself. So two parts of that are that I think try and get support in the form of coaching or mentoring. So find people around you who have done this already, so as close, you know, to the type of business that you're running or in your industry. Try and get expertise from people who've already been there and done it, but then also beyond your industry, you know, find people who can help you, who have experience in other sectors and industries that you can kind of draw on to be able to develop how you are as you grow and build your business. Because certainly I worked in PR for 8 years. George worked in PR for I think 7. We'd never run a company before. It's a completely different set.
It's a completely different ballgame, isn't it?
Need to be, and so I suppose I would also say then, don't try and do everything yourself. So get help in terms of expertise and advice and support, but then also understand your own strengths and weaknesses and outsource what you can as soon as you can. So for us, that was absolutely the accounts and the financial side of things, because, you know, we're PR people, we're not accountants.
Yeah.
So after year 1, we hired a professional accountancy firm, and now we have an in-house financial controller who's absolutely integral to the business, to the success.
Amazing. Can we hit pause on that very thought? Because I think you've unpacked quite a lot of good stuff right there. But I want to delve in deeper on the idea that you cannot be all things to your business. So you cannot be a CEO, you cannot be an accountant, you cannot be anything else. So my question to you is that, before all of that even begins to happen, before you even begin to start searching and realizing what skills you might need to outsource and so on and so forth, as you just kindly shared, I want to take you 2 steps back and just see, at what point do you know that this is it, I am going to be able to do this business? What kind of feeling did you get? Was it a gut feeling? And how did you get that? Was it self-counsel? Was it through mentorship? Or was it just an aha moment that just came from maybe being not happy where you were in the role that you were at the time?
Well, to go a step back, before, when I set up the company, I wasn't happy in the permanent role that I'd had before that. And so I freelanced for a while on my own. And actually it was that experience that led me to believe that it was, there was a viable business in, what we've now set up with the PR network in terms of building a team of freelancers, which has now become a very large team, and drawing on those people to provide bespoke, very closely sort of designed teams to the clients. I think that once we went out and sort of tested this idea on clients and said, would you buy an agency that, staffed by George and I, that, we would sort of take your brief and then we'll put it out, we will work on some of the briefs ourselves, and then we'll bring in people to help us when required, based on your budget. There won't be any fat, we'll have very low overheads, no office, that you're getting senior people who know what they're doing. And the response to that was overwhelmingly positive. Yes, we will buy it. So from there we went to put together a business plan. And because we were keeping it very lean at the beginning, our overheads and our outlays were low. It was George and I, and then we did no office. So, then hiring people to help us, as I said, as we needed to, as briefs came in. It was always profitable, and we always knew we could scale it back if the business dropped off. So there wasn't a fear factor there. And I think we were just very confident in the idea that it would work, and it was in a sector that we knew already, and it was a way of delivering PR services that haven't been done before. So we felt confident. I think we always felt that it would work, and even through a recession, it actually grew, became bigger.
Well, thank you for that, Nicky. That is very informative. So from what I gather is, from the word go, for you, it was a pragmatic decision. It wasn't an emotional decision. It had nothing to do with how you felt at the time. It was more like you actually just knew what you wanted and you just went for it. Would you say that's a fair analysis?
Yes, and also I suppose because of my situation in that I was already working for myself, I'd already taken that kind of leap into the unknown. I'd already found that I could make my own money, so I knew to pay my bills. I didn't leave a job to start this. There was an interest for me, which stayed me. And I liked it. I liked working for myself. I liked being my own boss. I'd already run teams in big PR agencies before. I kind of knew that I could do it for myself if I needed to. And also, as I touched on before, I really felt very strongly about flexible working and being able to work. Although I had a baby, I actually did then get pregnant very quickly after setting up the company, and then I had my son the next year. So then it was more difficult. But again, I had a sort of a year to get it going and to really put everything into it. And then and then it was even more important to just have that flexibility, although obviously working for yourself and having a business is really full on. I was always able to make my own choices about my life. I wasn't responsible or accountable to anybody else in terms of what I chose. It wasn't, having to choose between going to a meeting or looking after my baby. I didn't have to sort of not go to assemblies or, sports days, all those things people say they want to do. I think I've only missed 2 of those things.
Amazing. Good mom, super mom as well as badass boss. Amazing. So,
however, can I just say, sorry?
Go ahead,
that is obviously you do often work very long hours and very late nights. If I take time off in the day, I'm not then finishing at 5 o'clock. I'm probably working later to make up. I'm just saying it's flexibility, isn't it? I don't want to give the wrong impression. I kind of have it all.
Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you for adding that. So if you were to go back to your younger self, what would Nicky say to her younger self?
I think if I went back and gave advice to my younger self at, say, 26, when I got my first sort of big promotion in a PR agency to account director, and it felt very overwhelming and, like a really big job. And I thought I had a bit of a sense of imposter syndrome. People will find out. I was always trying to be more professional, more formal, not more professional, more formal, and I found it quite hard to be myself. And I think later on now, certainly now, I can't remember the last time I wore a suit or put on a kind of front at all. I try and be myself at work and at home. I don't think I'm a different person. I think I would have liked to have been that way, when I was a bit younger, but I felt very much that people would sort of think I didn't know what I was doing and, I was too young to be doing my job. So I'm probably lacking in confidence, I guess.
Amazing. I love that point. Now, let me just go take you back on imposter syndrome, because I come across a lot of young people that I've spoken to about thought leadership and mentioned the idea of them honing in their skills as experts in their fields and becoming the to-go-to experts in those areas. And the first thing they dismiss, oh, no, it couldn't be me, I couldn't do that and whatever, because obviously they have this mindset of, it's not, I'm not good enough, but they're better than me and stuff like that, because they feel like otherwise they have the imposter syndrome. So my question, I guess, would be, how would you help somebody to, now that you know what your 26-year-old self was and who you are now, how would you help somebody who's an emerging expert in their field to overcome that barrier and that self-doubt, that's imposter syndrome, to becoming the authentic selves right away without having to go through the pitfalls that you perhaps went through yourself?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you asked that question, because I listened to a podcast about this earlier this week called Digital Downloads by a guy called Paul Sutton. I don't know whether you listened to that. And he,
no, I should listen to it.
Yeah, I'll link afterwards. And she goes around the US and Europe, I guess, around the world, giving talks on how to overcome imposter syndrome. So I would say that, I didn't overcome it in any way. I just overcome it through experience. So you're saying if you want a shortcut, she said the best tip that she has is to spend a week writing down the voices in your head and the things that you say to yourself about why you can't do something. And she said you'd be astonished, you wouldn't talk that way to your worst enemy. It's all, no, you can't do that. People will find out. No one will buy that. No one likes you.
Amazing.
She said, if you acknowledge that, and then you start to go through a process where you address that a lot of those things are false, because you think, hang on a minute, people do like me, people do listen to me, people have already bought my services, people like my idea, and you start to find a way to, to overcome those negative perceptions you've got of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. As I said, I guess I've got over that, certainly to some extent. Although obviously everybody still has a sense of, do I deserve to be where I am? And, it's a shame most people seem to have this sense of that they're in the wrong boots that are too big for them.
Yeah, fair enough. So now to the final question, the most important question. Nikki, are you a thought leader?
Well, I don't think of myself in that way, but you told me that you found me online because you like the issues that I talk about. I certainly feel passionate about several issues to do with the world of work. I believe in identifying what you feel strongly about and then going after that. So for me, that was wanting to work for myself in a way that worked for me, not for somebody else. Flexible working is part of that. Gender parity at work, that's something that I feel really strongly about, and I've done a lot of work around that for the people working in the PR industry. So I guess I like to acknowledge issues that I feel strongly about and try to encourage debate. Whether that makes me a thought leader, I don't know. Well,
absolutely, but I will define it a little bit more, because obviously a thought leader is the go-to expert who is so good at what they do that they're able to share those skills with people that are coming behind them. They're able to share those skills as well as encourage others to replicate what they already know. So from where I stand, you are a typical thought leader because you've already done most of those things. So and then I did say that was the last question, but I do actually have one more question for you before I let you go, Nikki. So what would you say to our viewers? What would be the last thing that you can say to our viewers for those that are looking to perhaps emulate the path that you've taken as a trailblazer, starting a company that's never been done before and doing what you've done and doing what you've done so well? I'm not talking about asking or telling people to do exactly what you've done, but in whatever field, whatever area of interest they have, what would be those words of wisdom, your quotable quotes that I can go away and quote and talk about?
Well, we've already talked about having confidence in your idea, but then going away and checking that it's got legs, that it's got commercial legs, because most people need to make money as well as doing something that they love. So I'd say that first. Be prepared to fail as well as succeed. We talked about that. And then something we haven't talked about so much is just trying to find balance and not trying to do it all. I don't like this expression, women can have it all. I think you can have everything some of the time. So I think you need to think very carefully before you set up your own company about what other commitments you have, with children, partner, pets, parents that need you, because setting up a business and making it work is going to take a lot of hard work, obviously. And you need to make sure that you have time for that and that it's not going to compromise other things in your life. So for me, my family is more important than work, obviously, because family will always be there. So my work has to fit around my family, and luckily for me, I've found a way that it, sometimes one's more busy than the other, but you have to work together. So I think very carefully about that and the time that you have before you go and set up your own venture.